Hello, I'm Andrew Pritchard, and thank you for watching today's Corn Belt Regional Forecast, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We'll check in quickly at the jet stream here on Tuesday morning. We continue to watch broad ridging overall across the western U.S. We've got some short waves moving through parts of the Midwest, though, and that's bringing chances for showers and storms. Chances for some severe weather as we head through the next 24 hours. A small short wave embedded within the flow here across the Midwest, bringing chances for severe storms to parts of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and perhaps more of the eastern Corn Belt as we head through the day on Tuesday. And we'll talk about that here in depth in just a moment. First, your snapshot look at the temperature forecast over the next 10 days. The first 5 days over here on the right, this taking us through the 25th of August, keeping cooler temperatures overall across much of the Corn Belt. So we get another reinforcing shot of some cooler and less humid air to a big chunk of the Corn Belt here with the passage of a frontal boundary over the next couple of days. Looking beyond that, the last 5 days or so of August, keeping cooler temperatures again, generally pointed through much of the Corn Belt here, though there will be opportunities for warmer days embedded within that. Looking at the precipitation forecast here, week 1 is over here on the right, keeping a higher precipitation in the forecast across a chunk of the central Corn Belt here through parts of Iowa, Missouri, and into Illinois and Indiana. Now, part of this is responsible or a result of some of the thunderstorms we're seeing today, and then over the next couple of days as a frontal boundary stalls across the region, keeping storms in the forecast here really through the day on Thursday. So what I did was, instead of looking at just week 2, getting out beyond that, I kind of took those days out. We're looking at days 4 through 10 to kind of get an idea of where we're headed after this frontal boundary clears the area. We'll be watching parts of the Great Lakes into the central Corn Belt for the development of several storm systems that may bring some more precipitation to parts of the region here. We're talking about the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, into primarily Iowa and Nebraska, I think. Question marks remain as we talk about parts of the eastern Corn Belt, so really hoping to get a drink here as we talk about the next couple of days. Looking at the last 24 hours of precipitation, it's been rather quiet. We saw isolated showers and storms pop up across parts of Illinois, parts of Missouri and Indiana as we went through the day yesterday. A couple showers and storms across the state of Ohio, more isolated activity off to the north. And then what you see here are the thunderstorms that we'll be tracking through the day on Tuesday, seeing the early reports, some of the early precipitation from those here early on Tuesday morning. Flipping it over, you see how that lines up so well right there. There's the satellite picture here on Tuesday morning. We'll go ahead and hit play, and you watch this region for this explosion of the very cold cloud tops. There you see them. Those are severe storms getting underway across the state of Iowa, which we can see here. We look underneath that, taking a look at the radar picture right here, watching for a complex of severe storms to continue to develop this morning and then track off to the east-southeast, likely tracking across the state of Illinois, perhaps beyond as we head through the day. Watching also some isolated storms across the northern region here, across parts of North Dakota and northern Minnesota as we head through early Tuesday morning. Now here's a zoom shot. We're looking at, this is the state of Iowa. Here we've got the state of Illinois. To point out some cities here, Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, looking at Springfield. Here is Champaign, Illinois, where our headquarters are, where I am sitting this morning, awaiting this complex of storms to perhaps track east-southeast across the region. It looks fairly likely now, but you know and we know very well that the behavior of these complexes of storms, these MCSs, a mesoscale convective system here, they can be very erratic. They can be a little bit hard to predict with any kind of precision and certainty. So the best we can do is kind of give our best guess. But let me go ahead and hit play here. And what you're seeing is, again, one thing I want to point out, look at the radar time up here. We're looking at the radar from about 4:30 to 5 a.m. So if you're checking this video a little bit later, please do take an updated look at the radar, because this system could begin moving quickly, anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per hour off to the east-southeast. So definitely each hour there's going to be big changes here in the placement of this as it begins to track off to the east-southeast across the state of Illinois. The other thing I want to point out, you're starting to see this counterclockwise flow begin to develop as this complex of storms begins to develop its own central area of low pressure, and that helps it intensify, builds a cold pool, and that's what really gives these things momentum to begin charging off to the east-southeast, perhaps producing some significant wind damage across parts of southeast Iowa, maybe far northern Missouri, but then especially parts of Illinois as we head through the day today. Here's the frontal picture, or the surface picture here from the National Weather Service on Tuesday morning. This is the frontal boundary right now that we're watching for these strong storms to develop along. As we take this out even to Thursday morning, this frontal boundary really takes a long time to make it through the region. So all the way through Thursday, keeping at least isolated showers and storms in the forecast across much of the Corn Belt. Here's the severe weather outlook for today. The overall threat here on the top, we've got an enhanced risk where you see the orange shading here across parts of Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois. We look off to the bottom, here is the tornado threat. the wind threat, and then hail. And the highest risk we see right now is wind damage. Again, with a complex like this, perhaps a bow echo developing. And that gives us the potential for widespread wind damage. An isolated tornado or two can't be ruled out. Same thing with an isolated strong, large hail report here, but the bigger hail risk is going to be possible further off to the west across parts of Nebraska as we head into the later parts of the day. Looking at the next 2 days, so here is, this would be Wednesday and then Thursday. Again, as that frontal boundary kind of stalls out, keeping the risk of maybe some strong storms across parts of the Corn Belt here, southern portions at least, as we head through Wednesday and Thursday, in the shape of a whale here as we look at the day on Wednesday as this risk extends back up into the high plains. Here's the high resolution rapid refresh. This will give us a good idea of how things evolve today. Again, watching for those storms developing here across Iowa and then tracking off to the east-southeast. That's going to be our primary risk zone heading through the day today. We'll go ahead and we'll bring it back. We'll step through time watching this complex develop here across Iowa. There it is here on Tuesday morning, tracking east-southeast across the state of Illinois into Indiana. Perhaps as we head into the overnight, seeing some storms begin to develop on the backside here as this frontal boundary extends off to the west here. Really, I think the better chance for overnight storms is going to be across parts of Nebraska and Iowa, but a low risk of maybe some storms flaring back up across parts of central and southern Illinois. A zoom shot of the high resolution rapid refresh. This is the most updated run, so this is the latest data that I've got on my hands here at 5 o'clock on Tuesday morning. And we see the same thing. This area of storms develops. You see it kind of form that bow shape across parts of southeast Iowa here on Tuesday morning before it charges across central Illinois. Again, note the bow shape. This is a complex or a look that suggests wind damage is going to be the primary threat. So good news, we're going to potentially get some rain here across areas of northern and central Illinois that really badly need it. Bad news could potentially come with some strong straight line winds that could create some damage with some of the crops here. So something we'll be watching closely as we head through the day today. I'm not trying to do any self-promotion here, but I will be tracking this through the day. So if you're on social media, punch in my screen name here at Skydrama. I'll be tracking this thing and kind of giving updates every hour or so. If you live in parts of southeast Iowa, maybe northwestern Missouri, or northeastern Missouri, I should say, or certainly across central Illinois in this region, and you want to follow me for updates, please do, as I'll be tracking this as we head through the day. Now, as we take a look at the high-resolution NAM model, let's take us up just a little bit further. We'll go ahead and we'll hit play. We'll take it back to Tuesday morning, watching this complex of storms here tracking across central Illinois, parts of west or eastern Missouri. Again, this one, the HER kind of took it on a trajectory like this. It'll help if I draw it not in white. Kind of took a trajectory like this. And what do we see with the high-resolution NAM model? Maybe a little bit more like this. So again, not even 100% confidence as we look at this thing just 6 to 12 hours in advance. So that is why we kind of highlight a big area, not just across central Illinois, but then across parts of eastern Missouri as well, as the potential for some of those strong wind gusts as we head through the day on Tuesday. Now let me go back though, let's talk about the days that follow here, because you'll see the frontal boundary kind of stall out in the region right in this area. Let me take that drawing off here. We'll take this out through the day on Tuesday. We've already seen this. Getting into Tuesday night, watching for those storms flaring up. Again, remember, across Nebraska and Iowa overnight tonight. Then heading into the day on Wednesday, watching for those scattered showers and storms all the way through Thursday morning. This takes us here. This is Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night, getting into the early part of the day on Thursday. So as long as this frontal boundary is stalled in the region, watching for the chance for showers and storms along that frontal boundary through Thursday. Total accumulated precipitation, here we'll see a couple of corridors. You see the potential corridor from today's storms, overnight storms possible out here across Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa. But really, you notice the overall nature here. It is scattered and it's confined to these clusters of storms. So it really sucks if you miss out on those, because that is kind of your opportunity. So you look off to the north, more scattered in nature, some of these isolated to scattered showers and storms. But then off to the south, it's more the clustered nature, some of these heavy corridors of precipitation, with folks who don't get hit by these clusters of storms kind of missing out. So where are we headed then from here? We really talked about the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday time frame. Here is the shortwave that's responsible for the strong storms during the day today. We'll go ahead and play this out, and we bring it back to Tuesday as we head through the next couple of days, watching this upper level trough, kind of keeping showers and storms in the forecast in this general region as that frontal boundary stalls in the area. As this exits, though, for the weekend, it's going to bring in a cooler Less humid air mass to the Corn Belt here. High pressure sitting over the region for the back half of the weekend into early next week. Before we turn our attention back to the west, we see this kind of surge from the jet stream beginning to punch back into the northern plains as we look at the back half of the weekend into early next week. Some uncertainty in how this actually behaves, but this is what we'll have to watch. This could trigger the development of one or more areas of low pressure with a frontal boundary in this general area. And that's why, as we looked at the days 4 through 10 precipitation forecast, we saw the chance for some precipitation setting back up in central parts of the country. That is because of this trough, this wave punching in from the jet stream as we get into the end of the weekend into early next week. So uncertainty within the exact evolution of this, but that is, again, why as we look into early next week, kind of watching the Dakotas into the upper Midwest, parts of Nebraska and Iowa for the main focal point for showers and storms next week. Temperature forecast, we're going to watch this area of cooler temperatures surge into the Corn Belt here as this front sinks into the region, getting into the end of the week into early next week. Let me bring it back here. Here comes the frontal boundary here Tuesday and Wednesday, finally clearing the region. So as we get into Wednesday and Thursday across the central and eastern Corn Belt, experiencing that cooler, less humid air mass. That does linger into much of the weekend, especially across the eastern Corn Belt. We're in Saturday and Sunday now, still seeing these cooler temperatures across this region, anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees cooler than average, seeing warmth begin to kind of creep back in advance of that trough that's pushing into the western U.S. as we get into the end of the weekend. So here we go into early next week, starting to see that warmth kind of trickle back in, but with that big trough in the area of low pressure setting up, we're going to potentially be talking about another frontal boundary, bringing another reinforcing shot of cooler air to the region. I don't want to get into specifics here, but again, that's why as we get into the end of the weekend, early next week, we're really watching that next punch from the jet stream, that next trough coming in, because that is going to dictate not only where the rain sets up, but how intense this next round of cool air is that comes punching into the Corn Belt, perhaps late next week. So that's where we're headed. Kind of a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday threat for some rain across the central Corn Belt before we get high pressure in the region, and then start watching for the next wave as we get into the end of the next weekend into early next week. Our instability forecast, this will kind of show us the evolution of the pattern as well. Let me go ahead and bring it back to Tuesday. As we look at Tuesday afternoon, again, here is the instability that is, what would be the word to use, sustaining those strong storms across parts of Illinois, Missouri, and then perhaps beyond that as we get into the day on Tuesday. Getting into Tuesday night and Wednesday, again, we see high instability across parts of Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas. That's where we expect those showers and storms developing overnight in this region. And then as we get into Wednesday and Thursday, watching this frontal boundary, you see it kind of dividing the line between unstable and stable to the north. And it's right along that line where we expect to keep the chance for showers and storms in the forecast here. This is Wednesday. Thursday, look how slow this is moving out of here. Finally, as we get into the day on Friday, starting to kind of carve out this area where it's going to be cooler, less humid, and stable across the central and eastern Corn Belt. The only area we're finding instability as we get into the weekend, well off to the west here across the central plains, and then that next trough begins punching in here towards the end of the weekend. So we'll be watching as we talk about the weekend, this area for the best chance for showers and storms across the Dakotas into the upper Midwest. And then here you see that next frontal boundary already starting to push in. We're talking about Monday and Tuesday of next week already, so getting way out there. But this will be the next time we'll be watching for showers and storms, talking about kind of the back half of the weekend across the high plains here, the Dakotas into Nebraska, and then across the upper Midwest and the central Corn Belt, probably talking more like Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Precipitation forecast with this. I know I'm starting to run a little bit long. I do want to kind of keep things moving. Here's the complex of storms here for the day on Tuesday. We'll see showers and storms kind of remaining in this region over the next couple of days. Here is Tuesday. Wednesday, we see them flare back up. Thursday, seeing showers and storms kind of flaring back up again. Here's the frontal boundary by the time we get to Thursday night into Friday morning. And then as we get into the weekend, starting to watch again, it'll be this region for the next storm system to begin to emerge. This is Saturday. Now watching Sunday for the next widespread chance for showers and storms in this area. We see an area of low pressure developing in that region. Again, not getting into specifics, but really just showing you the overall pattern here. This is the region we'll be watching the back half of the weekend into early next week. And then perhaps as we get into middle of next week, watching for a frontal boundary to maybe bring another shot of rain to parts of the very dry eastern and central Corn Belt from Iowa to Illinois and Indiana. Question marks abound with that, really just focusing on this region for late weekend, early next week precipitation, question mark in this area. Total accumulated, or we're looking at the European model now, the probability of rainfall over 1 inch for the next week. So we're taking it through Tuesday evening of next week, And again, here's the corridor that we see. This is going to be primarily coming from our Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday precipitation. This primarily going to be what we're dealing with as we get into early next week. But you see the corridor here. And again, as we get into the warmer colors here, where we get above 80% here, this is where we get a higher probability. Now, the region we really need to get some rainfall, and of course, I know there are people beyond this corridor who have been very dry, so don't yell at me if I don't circle your area, but really wanted to bring some rain into this corridor here from parts of Iowa into the northern 2/3 of Illinois, northern and central Indiana as well. So we see kind of a dividing line where the southern end here, and it has been the southern end here, this corridor from Kansas into Missouri and southern Illinois, a lot of folks have had rain, and it looks like they're going to continue to see the majority of this rain, but at least keeping things around a 50 to 60% chance here of getting at least an inch of rain in this very dry area. So better than nothing. If we could kind of shift this corridor northward just about 50 to 100 miles, that would be just okay, but at least a chance for some folks to get a drink here over the next week or so. We'll finish then with the high temperatures over the next 5 days, anywhere from the hundreds here across the Central Plains to the 80s and low 90s, all the way to the mid 70s off to the north for the day on Tuesday. Watching cooler air come in on the backside of that front here for the day on Wednesday. High temps in the lower to mid 70s across the upper Midwest and the northern plains. On Thursday, that frontal boundary sinking even further south, bringing low 80s to the 70s into parts of Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, and east from there. And then cooler yet for the day on Friday. High temperatures in the mid 70s across almost the entire Corn Belt region. Finishing with your day on Friday, keeping those cooler temperatures in the region. Weekend temperatures in this area going to be in the 60s and highs in the upper 70s to mid 70s. So really an autumn-like weekend across a big chunk of the Great Lakes into the eastern Corn Belt. As always, Eric Snodgrass will have an in-depth look at the evolution of the next 1 to 2 weeks in our Thursday morning ag forecast video, and I'll have your next check-in with the Corn Belt region on Friday morning. Have a great day and stay weather aware if you're in that severe weather threat area as you get through the day on Tuesday. I'll talk to you on Friday morning.